Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power of Integrity podcast. I'm delighted to have our next guest, Eric Goodman of MVS Services, Mountain View Services, Inc., and Chem-Pak. Eric's story is far larger than his entrepreneurial expertise. He's a philanthropist. He's an award-winning philanthropist for all the work he does and the dedication. He'll tell you a little bit about that. I'd love you to tell folks about your path and your journey professionally, also the things you've been doing philanthropically. You've got such a spectacular resume. Folks should know about you if they don't know about you already. Eric, good to have you with us.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So I'll tell you a little bit about our companies. Mountain View Services Incorporated. So we've been in business for 37 years. We service about 500 homes for developmentally disabled adults and children. They're group homes that are in the community locally. We're funded by Medi-Cal and Medicare, and we provide all of their food and all of their medical supplies. So we have a lot of passion for what we do because we care for over 3,500 patients a day with our services. And it's a need that is very great in the community because these are special type items, formulas, and different things that they have that they can't just get in a normal retail setting. They have to get it to a provider like us. And then Chem-Pak, 36 years in business. That's actually a family business that my dad started, paper and chemical manufacturing company, mostly in the janitorial supply industry. I was second generation, and then now my children have taken over and are running the day-to-day. So we're third generation in that business, and then first generation in my company. So those are the two businesses.
Wow. And then tell our audience a little about your philanthropic endeavors because they're pretty wide and broad and just as deep as the work you're doing with MVS and Chem-Pak.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I serve on the board for about 7 nonprofits right now. Most notably would be Ronald McDonald House Charities. I've been on their board of directors for 21 years now. I know you and I were speaking about that earlier. So I was on the capital campaign board for our Inland Empire Ronald McDonald House, where we raised $12 million in 2016 to double the size of the house. And then my good friends, Charles Antis and Katie Rucker, just doubled the size of the Orange County house. They raised $14 million, and we just had the groundbreaking on that a few weeks ago. So Ron McDonald House Charities is really important to me. And then I serve on a few charities for disabled adults and children, seniors. And then I work with children through junior achievements, doing training for financial literacy and entrepreneurship in the schools. Teen Kids, where we have firemen and police that go into the schools and train the kids. I've been on the board for the American Heart Association and a handful of other local ones in Orange County. The businesses are located in the Inland Empire. That's where our distribution centers are, but corporate office and my home is in Orange County. So that's primarily where I reside and do most of the nonprofit work.
And when you reside, do you ever get any sleep?
No, I don't sleep very much. I'm like, you mentioned Charles Antis earlier. I'm like Charles, a couple hours a night. And I feel like I'm on a mission to help people in the community. And that's my passion. And so between what our companies do and what our nonprofits do that I'm on the boards for, I spend most of my time helping other people more than I'm doing for myself, which I know is not good, but that's where I'm at.
It's amazing how we can be fueled by passion and purpose, so much so that it's energizing us, even though when we're supposed to be tired, we're no longer tired because we are energized by that passion and
That's
purpose.
right.
And
People ask me
you and
often,
Charles are living examples.
they'll say, why are you on 7 boards of directors for nonprofits? And so finally I got tired of having to answer why. So I said, because I can, because I want to, because it's my passion. And they said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, when I'm not working, what feeds my soul and what keeps me going, what I do to de-stress is I help other people and I help support nonprofits. So for me, that's really my downtime. When I'm doing nonprofit work in the community, that's what's feeding my soul. So that's why I do it.
What a wonderful perspective that you don't see it as additional work, but you actually see it as nourishing and nourishment.
Absolutely. It's definitely how I combat stress.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So we're here to talk about integrity. Obviously, it's a big part of your life. I'm curious if you could tell our audience a little bit about how you prioritize integrity, either in business and personal life or both. I think that's important for them to hear from a fellow like you.
Thank you. Yeah, in preparing for this podcast, I went ahead and I I assumed I knew what the word meant, but I wanted to look up integrity just to see the actual meaning of the word, which I'm sure you did and you know, since this is the platform for your podcast. But integrity, it said, is the quality of being honest. So when I read that, I said, well, that fits perfect because our company values for both of my companies are my personal values. They're caring, dependable, and honest. Those are the three values that we live by here. And how we came up with those a few years ago was when I acquired the second company, I decided we needed to have a guiding light that we followed and what was going to be the basis for how we were going to help people in the community. So we went and contacted our customers and our vendors and people that I work with and said, could you list words that you think of when you think of either myself, Eric Goodman, or when you think of my company, Mountain View Services? And I got a long list from many friends and long time customers, vendors of words. And the three words that everyone had in common or that we saw the most of was caring, dependable, and honest. So that's what we went with. We said, well, that's what people see us for. That's what we are. And that's the values we live by. So my staff has to fit those values. My customers have to fit those values. My vendors have to fit those values. And any partner that I have, any organization that I work with, have to fit those values. Well, honesty being one of them fits your podcast and what we're discussing perfectly, integrity, which is one of our core values that we live by every day.
It's wonderful because, you know, the definition of integrity, when our company called Integrity Wealth Management, we had a marketing consultant come in and they studied even the archived ancient definition of integrity and came up with a few other twists to the time. Obviously, we all think of honesty, transparency, doing the things when no one else is looking, doing the right thing. And they came up with this other piece of seeing things through to completion.
Oh.
As integral or integral to the process of things, like, you know, doing what you say you're going to do and finishing what you start. A couple other guests on this show have added to the definition. They threw me a couple curveballs. One said you got to be consistent to have integrity, and another one said you got to be sustainable to have integrity. And you know, the more I thought about it, the more this term, you know, it has a larger blanket and lays over a lot more bed than we think.
Yeah, it sure does. It definitely does. But I think having a guiding light that you live by in your personal life and in your business, I think you have to have certain values you live by. I mean, we had a mission statement for, 30 plus years. We're 37 years in business, but nobody had this mission statement memorized. It was too long. I didn't have it memorized. We didn't know what it was. We did like you. We spent money to have a company come out and did our values, core values, and our mission statement, our vision statement. And it got to be where at some point I just decided, we just need to have three words that we live by every single day. And those will be the words that'll guide me in the decisions I make. And we'll stop and say, all right, stop. Let's think about this. Are they caring? Are they dependable? And are they honest? Did they fit those values? If they do, we're good to move forward. If they don't, that causes concern and we need to relook at this and discuss. So that's what we did. And it's the last few years, it's worked great.
It's so critical to always know those that are in our orbit who will influence us. Our parents said to us, mind who your friends are, right? Because in some way, those friends are going to influence our world. And you being very clear about being caring, dependable, and honest, and only letting those types of folks in your orbit is really crucial to success for sure. I'm curious about leadership, how integrity plays a role in your leadership style and what you do to lead your employees, because you obviously have a few of them.
Yeah, so I started with Mountain View Services, the company, actually 29 years ago in outside sales. So I was a salesman for the company. Then I was director of sales, vice president, president, and then I purchased the company in 2020. So my entire career with this organization had been starting at the bottom and working my way up to CEO. So I didn't have any CEO training. It's not something they teach you in college or in school. I just had mentors and people along the way. So my values that I believe in, I use those with my employees. And since I started in the position they were in, and I have managers that work for me now that have been with me all 37 years we've been in business. So they grew with me. My entire management team of 13 all started at some entry level position at the company, have been promoted all the way up to myself, my VP. I think the only manager for the company that wasn't promoted within was our CFO, which came to us from an outside source, but everyone else was promoted within. So we grew up together. So I know how they feel. I know what they've been through. I know what it's like. So my leadership style is definitely doing it by just following my values and doing the right thing. I lead by example, and everyone on my team does the same. And it's worked well for us because I don't have to tell them how I want things done. I just do it the way I would do it for my values and leading them by my example. And then they just follow, and we all are on the same page.
Yeah, you remind me of the this current, I'm going to call him CEO, executive director at Orangewood.
Chris.
Over the, yeah, he had
Chris.
said his leadership style is through service. Service of his
yeah.
constituents.
Chris and I are in the same CEO group in Orange County.
Isn't that wild?
Orange County is a small place when you actually get into it.
There may be 3 million plus of us, but it is a small provincial or area, isn't it? At the end of the day,
especially good people. What I found in Orange County is, it has the stigma. Getting off topic, but of being a certain way because that's what people see on television, right? And I feel like the biggest hearts I've ever met in my entire life are in Orange County, and some of the greatest people I've ever been associated with are in Orange County. It's not Orange County as a whole, it's whoever you have as your group. And since my group are all caring, dependable, and honest, I have a great group of people around me like Chris and others. So I think it just has to do with the people you are around, and there's a lot of amazing, huge hearts in Orange County.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. What one of the other things that comes to mind is how, so we talked about how leadership internally helps with your employees, but what do you think about integrity in the world of customer loyalty and those your people you're serving?
I think it's huge. So I've got a great story that came to my mind when I was reviewing the questions for the podcast. I don't know why it came to me, but it did. I have a story that I wanted to share about integrity. That's something that I've used often with my team, but I don't think I've shared it publicly before. So we had an issue a few years ago where we had a large customer that we deal with had ordered 50 hospital beds. And so my team quoted out the hospital beds and had given them a price. And during the process, they decided to change to a different bed. So they ordered the bed and we got a price on it. It was a very large order. You can imagine 50 hospital beds. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And my service manager contacted me and she said, "Hey, Eric, I spoke to the manufacturer. This bed that they want is actually on a special deal and they can buy this bed direct cheaper than we're going to be able to sell it to them for on a special deal that's going through the buying direct distributor."
Yeah.
She said, "What do you want to do?" Because she's like, there's a chance they could find out after they purchased all these beds from us that they could have bought them cheaper going direct. And so I thought about it and I said, well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to call the customer on the phone and tell them they can buy these beds direct, that they should do that. And it's cheaper. It'll save them money. So I called the CFO of their company, which had been a longtime customer of ours for many years. And I said, "Hey, here's the deal. Here's the quote we gave you. Here's the price. If you go direct, you'll save X amount," which I think was about 20%. "I think you should do that, but thank you for the opportunity." And it's kind of quiet on the phone for a minute. And he comes back. He says, "Order the beds." I said, "What do you mean order the beds? You'll save money going direct." He said, "No, I don't want to do that." He says, "We have a relationship." And he's like, "I know you're going to take care of me. I know you're going to handle it. I know I won't have any problems. I won't have to think about anything." He's like, "Order the beds and ship them to me." I said, "Okay." So I went back to my service manager. I said, "Place the order." She says, "Why would he order them from us?" I said, "Because of the relationship, because I was honest. I called him on the phone. I told him honestly what he should do. He respected that, but in the end, he wanted the relationship with me and him to stay, and he ordered the product from us." And she said, "I can't believe it." And we got the order. Now, had I not done that, and had he found out he could have bought them direct somewhere else and saved 20% on an order that large, I probably would have lost that customer. That customer has been with me. This is their 37th year as a customer with us. And that's why, right? Because we have a relationship and we're honest with each other.
Yes, things tend to work out when we're clear and upfront.
That's right.
They sure
Opposed to I could have got the order, made a little bit of money, and then had to struggle with the point that I knew he could have got it for less and that wasn't the right thing to do.
Yes. One of my previous guests, Ray Leonard Jr., son of Sugar Ray Leonard, he had said, "Do things in the dark that you know will be seen in the light."
That's good. That's a good one.
Right.
But you know how it is owning and operating a business. Sometimes you have to make decisions that sometimes you question yourself because somebody will pressure you into thinking it's the right thing to do. And so if you just go back to your values, that like I do, like the three values, and say, does this really align? And if for some reason my gut tells me it doesn't, then I don't make the decision to do that deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Can you share with our audience a time where, and I doubt that this happens frequently with you, but because of who you keep in your orbit, but a time where your integrity was tested and how you had to respond?
Ooh, that's a good question. For us, it's really, really difficult, the industry that we're in, because we're funded by Medi-Cal and Medicare. So in our industry, traditionally, there's a lot of Medi-Cal fraud, and there's a lot of people who take advantage of the Medicare system. So as a whole, the industry that I'm in, being in healthcare, being related to the state budget, being related to, what happens with funding, with the tobacco tax affects us, the minimum wage affects us. Lots of times, there's been some decisions that have been made, like the PPP loans. Obviously, were huge for us because we did PPE during the COVID crisis, because we do medical supplies and food supplies. So we received a lot of funding during that time that was supposed to be earmarked for certain things, where, we got the funding for employees, we got the funding to keep operating, we got funding for continuing to help Medi-Cal patients. And there was a lot of people in our industry who didn't spend the money like they were supposed to. They spent the money on themselves, on their businesses, ways that they shouldn't have done, and they didn't necessarily do it like it was intended to be done. We didn't do that. I paid my employees more money. I did everything we were supposed to do by the book. And in the long run, there was some businesses that really took off. And I think that funding really took them to the next level. And for us, it didn't. And people were surprised that post-pandemic that we were actually less revenue, and we were actually less profitable than we were during the pandemic, because when the prices of everything went down, obviously we couldn't sustain that same margin, right? I mean,
Yes.
like food's a 40% increase. You can't charge a customer 40% more than you were before when your costs are 40% higher and make the same margin. So we're currently making less money on the same revenue or more, because the margins have dropped so much past COVID.
Yes.
So for me, it was hard because I had to make decisions that probably could have propelled the business to the next level, and I didn't do it because it wasn't the right thing to do. So I was really tested on multiple occasions where sources were calling me saying, you should take this funding, you should do that, you should use the funding to do this, invest it here. And I didn't do that. During COVID, I actually stopped receiving any new customers for 2.5 years. We didn't bring on a single new account, not one account. And I had a lot of customers call me and wanted our services, because during COVID, we were really a high demand service doing medical supplies, janitorial supplies, and food supplies. And the reason I didn't accept any new customers was because I wanted to continue to service the existing customer base that I had without shorting them on any items, because
Yes.
they were the ones that had kept us in business, and I wanted to keep them in business. So
Yes.
I turned away business that could have had us grow, and it didn't. But I did that for the sake of taking care of the people that had taken care of me all those years. And now I have customers that have come to me post COVID and said, Eric, there was people not getting toilet paper, there's people not getting food, there's people not getting medical supplies. We got everything we needed. You never shorted us one thing, which we didn't short. My company did not short one person, one single thing during the entire pandemic. I fulfilled every order 100%. The reason we did that was because we kept it to our core base, which really hampered the business. But in my heart and soul, it was the right thing to do. And some of those customers now tell me, I'll never buy from anyone else the rest of my life. You'll be the only person I'll ever buy from, because you took care of me when I needed you the most.
Isn't it amazing when we play for the long ball, how it all works out?
Yeah, but it was a struggle. People were pulling me from all directions. I mean, at one point, I think every person in the face of the planet was in medical supplies. You could go to a restaurant, they were selling medical supplies. You went on the corner, they were selling medical supplies. You meet somebody, what do you do for a living? I sell medical supplies. Really? How long have you been in it? 2 months. I sell gloves. I sell PPE. Now they're all gone. All those companies are gone. And there's actually companies that have went bankrupt because they had too much of that stock. They had
Yes.
pallets and pallets of COVID tests and gloves and face masks and face shields. Well, we didn't do any of that because I knew it wasn't a short-term game for me. It was a long-term game, taking
Yes.
care of people that we serviced. I wasn't just going to go in, make a quick dollar and rip people off and then get out of it. I had a lot of people calling me saying, Eric, could you provide us with PPE? And I said, no, I'm sorry, I can't. And they're like, well, that's your business. I said, I know, but we're closed right now because we were taking care of the people that were our existing customers.
Extraordinary. It's an extraordinary story. What a commitment to caring for your folks and staying loyal with your customers. Two-way, bilateral loyalty, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think some of those customers, had I started just, hoarding that stuff and selling it to everybody that was around and making double, triple digits just for profit, I think I probably would have lost some of those customers because they would have said, Eric, we need the product and you're not supplying it to me. But there was a lot of businesses who did that. There was a lot of friends that I had in the industry that were taking care of people that weren't their regular customer base because they were making more money off of them. And I just couldn't do it.
Yes, understood. Is there somewhere, this is going to be difficult, I'm sure, for you because, again, who you keep around you, a time where you saw integrity, the lack of integrity led to demise of potentially a transaction, a relationship, or some other consequence?
Yeah, I have a pretty good story on that one too, which is something that guided me as I grew in my position as CEO of the company and led the organizations. When my dad owned Chem-Pak, the family business, and he'd had it for many, many, many years, one of his customers opened the exact same business directly across the street. So literally, my dad's business was on this corner, and another customer opened on the next corner, kind of like a gas station when they're on four corners. But in the janitorial supply industry, normally they're pretty spread apart. You don't have a lot of them, and they're usually in certain areas. He opened up a business directly across the street from us, and I told my dad, I said, well, what will we do? I mean, now we have a competitor directly across the street, and he knows all of our customers, and he knows everybody we deal with because they've been in the industry, long time too. And he said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. He said, we're not going to worry about them. We're going to do what we do, and we're not going to pay any attention to what they do across the street. We're just going to continue to do what we do, and we're not going to watch them at all. Well, that's really hard to do when they're right across the street. I mean, customers would walk between us and them, So one day a guy comes in and he says, what's the price on these vacuum cleaners? I need 5 of them. So my dad gives him a price, and he says, well, they have them across the street for $25, $50 less, whatever it is. And my dad said, well, then I guess you'll have to buy them across the street because I can't sell them to you at that price. Well, the guy had actually quoted them costs to try to get them to come over there and buy from them versus buying from us. So my dad said, I'm sorry, I can't sell it to you. And the guy said, so you're going to lose my business? My dad said, well, I can't afford to sell it to you for less than that. So then we kind of stood there for a minute. And my dad said, well, here, let me give you a price. Go back across the street and see if he'll sell them to you for that. And he marked them like $50 below cost. And the guy said, great. So we went back across the street and told the guy, hey, I want them at this price. You said you'd sell them to me for less. Well, it's $50 below his cost. So he calls my dad. He's really upset. Why in the world would you do that? My dad said, well, why would you sell them to him at cost to try to get the business? And he said, well, I was trying to take the business from you, and I'd rather get it at cost than nothing. And my dad said, well, then you could sell it to him at $50 below cost to get the business. And that never happened again. The guy never did it again. But that's when my dad looked at me and he said, I told you this is why we don't worry about what they're doing. We just do what we do. We don't pay any attention to the competition. We just do what's right. And he's like, and it'll work out. Well, about 5-6 years later, that guy went out of business. We're still here today. I'm sitting in that office where that location is. We've been here 37 years. I'm sure we'll be here for a very long time after that. He since went out of business, closed, and doesn't exist because of the type of business he was running. And my dad didn't pay any attention to what he was doing, and we're still here. So it was a valuable lesson to me that your integrity is important, and that it took us through, but it was hard for me to learn that I could see the competitor right across the street, and I watched him all the time, and I was concerned about what was he doing and would he take our business? And my dad just stayed the course, and he said, we do not watch what he's doing. We do our own thing. And it served us well.
Yes. Wonderful example of character in your dad there, and the character of integrity that he held close. What a perfect example for our audience. Tell our, before we close up here, what words of wisdom would you have for the young aspiring entrepreneurs, those folks that are listening in, that where integrity or any other of the important virtues might apply, and how they've served you, and how you might suggest these folks apply it in their lives?
That's a good question. So obviously finding your core values, we discussed that at the beginning, I think is key. I think those values always existed for me. I just didn't think I had them on a public platform, and I didn't have our team so engraved in them where, I mean, I post on LinkedIn every single day, and you can go look at every post I've posted since the beginning. You'll see I always tag caring, dependable, and honest. It's in everything we do. It's in everything I say. It's in every meeting we discuss. It's in every business deal we come up with. It's in every employee we hire. I mean, it's just something that we live by. And I think once I got those core values in place and I was able to say, not only are they my personal values, but they're my company values. And for me, they're both the same. I think that had a huge piece of it. My faith plays a huge piece into what I do. I have a lot of faith. And so my faith carries me through sometimes when I have to make tough decisions running two companies and being CEO with so many employees, like the things that I do and say, my faith takes me. My advice to somebody starting out younger would be find those core values early, know what they are and live by them. And sometimes it's going to be tough decisions that you're going to make that you think are going to be life-changing or that, you know, you can't do. But if you stick to those values in the long run, my stories have always come out with good endings. And I think having grown up in the businesses and becoming CEO, I think the people around you and taking care of the people obviously is huge. I'm sure you've done it. We've all done it as business owners or leaders, is we try to do everything and you can't do everything. You want to run all departments. You want to be in charge of everything. You want to control everything. We've all been there. Every person that becomes an entrepreneur or CEO is going to be there, and you can't do it. As much as you want to do it, you can't do it. You have to find good people. They have to share your values. And if they share your values and you both have passion for what you do, then the company will succeed. But without that, I don't think any leader can succeed.
Yeah, you know, putting a kind of a bow around that, what's coming to mind is integrity is not a once in a while thing; it's an all the time thing.
Yeah, it's an all the time thing.
And
And people,
I hear
and we
that.
discuss this often with the groups, people don't realize that are CEOs or leaders how much they're being watched. But then when somebody sees them and do what they do, then they say, well, if they do it, it's okay for me to do. So as a leader or a CEO of your organization or C-suite, you're always being watched by everyone, your employees, your customers, your vendors. So I just stick by those values 24/7, 365 years a day. Like you said, if I'm in the dark and alone, those values still stand because we're always being watched and people know what we're doing. And if we make those mistakes, they think it's okay and they're going to do it. And then it's just going to have the ripple effect. So I just always lead by example and figure in anything in my personal life or business life, if I follow those values, it's all going to be okay.
Eric Goodman, it's been a delight visiting with you. I know some of our audience is anxious to get in touch with you. If they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to follow up with you?
Probably my LinkedIn. I'm very active. I post on LinkedIn every single day. You mentioned my friend Charles Antis, kind of my give back mentor, and we do a lot of charity work in Orange County, as we talked about, and work with a lot of other businesses that want to support charities. So if anybody wants to learn more about getting involved with nonprofits or helping charities or giving back to their community or doing good, I'd love to meet and talk to them. So it's Eric L. For my middle name, Goodman. On LinkedIn, that's probably the best place. Or our website is MVS for Mountain View Services Corp, CORP.com. And all of my contact information is on there, phone number, email address, more about the businesses. I'd be happy to connect with anybody who would like to learn more about giving back and helping their community.
You're a wonderful man. You're a wonderful contributor to our community. I've been blessed and I've been honored to have you on the show. I really appreciate it. I'm sure we're going to catch up soon. It's a small county, isn't it?
It is very small county. And thank you for inviting me. I'm absolutely thrilled that I had the time to sit down and talk with you today.
Absolutely. I'm sure we're going to have more time to speak. Maybe we'll catch lunch soon.
Thank you very much.
Take care, my friend. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinions are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult a legal or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. This information does not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of capital. Ralph Adamo is registered with the securities and are offered through Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC, 6451 North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33308. Telephone number 954-782-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors, Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc.